Welcome to the Pinnacle Podcast. This is a space that we've created where we want to talk about all things sports, coaching, mindset. We're based here in the Pinnacle Gym, so you might see people walking around the back of us, but we wanted it to be a bit interactive, didn't we? And we're in a working boatyard, so actually there's a whole heap of boaty stuff happening on the outside. So the noise is going to be interesting, but really, the purpose of our podcast is honest, conversational, practical insights about health, wealth, nutrition, mind, and
business,
and all sorts of things. So I'm joined today by Andy and Ross, my two favorite people. Andy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Before we go into the introduction, what about Harry? You mentioned.
Oh, well, Harry is my favorite, obviously.
Yeah. My name's Andy. I'm the chief round here.
Chief troublemaker.
Yeah, my name's Ross. I'm the light relief, also the coach, or a coach.
Yeah. So, chief owner of the gym and one of our awesome coaches that we have. Dog's Body. Okay, brilliant. So listen, in our first episode, what we wanted to do was kind of tell us the story about behind Pinnacle. I didn't realize it until you started talking to me about it as to how Pinnacle started and talking about owning a gym, setting it up, going through the stages and all of that sort of stuff. Tell me more. So how did it all start? Why did you join? Why start Pinnacle?
So I left the British Army in 2010 after doing an operation tour in Iraq. Had enough, wanted to start my own thing, became a coach, went and worked in a David Lloyd.
Okay.
So that was originally it was called a Sporter. Then it moved to Virgin and then David Lloyd subsequently. Now
that's a whole different podcast.
It is. And let's not go there. But I probably lasted about a year there before it got a bit too much. And I just wanted to go out and do my own thing. So I bought a barbell, a couple of kettlebells. I had a Vauxhall Severe at the time. And my wife used to gratefully let me have the car and I would fold it all down and I would put the barbell and kettlebell in the back of it. And that was pretty much me looking for clients. And I've got to say, it was pretty brutal. At the time, I didn't really understand that time is money.
Okay.
So I used to travel everything from pretty much Bournemouth to Portsmouth.
Wow.
And everything in between.
To people's homes or to gyms?
To people's houses, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So to turn up the house like the 18 van, but not. And to be honest with you, it's actually quite scary at first when I wasn't young at the time. It's hard work going to someone's door and having the confidence to be able to go into their house and know what you're doing without any help whatsoever.
Yeah. And also this being your job and creating the network to do it and building up the client base, because it doesn't just happen overnight, does it?
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, a lot of it's really referral. So you're bouncing one side to the other side, but you're really hoping that the person you start working with refers you someone in that specific area. And then you just don't have to go anywhere else. You can maybe bounce around without going to various different areas, which sort of happened. And that's why we're in Hamble.
So how long were you doing the sort of door-to-door salesman activity?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years. It was really hard work.
Yeah.
And I would say that the straw that broke the camel's back for me was I walked in one day because as a coach, and Ross will back me up on this, when you work alone, you have to work in unsociable times of the day.
Yeah.
So you have to work in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning sometimes you're up at 5 to get in your van to get to, I don't know, the New Forest. You're not understanding the cost that it gets you to get there and the time. And I was doing that. Then you go back home, you then get some lunch, then you're back out in the evening. And I can remember coming back one evening, and at the time I had 4 kids, 5 years old and under.
Oof.
So 2 were throwing food at each other at the table. My wife.
No wonder you wanted to get out of the house.
Someone said that, but it was quite eye-opening. So my wife had 2 at the table, throwing food at each other. And then I had one in a bouncer. My wife was bouncing that one, cooking the dinner whilst breastfeeding the other.
Wow.
And I was like, this something's got to change now.
Yeah.
So I set out to try and find a way of opening my first gym.
Okay. Okay. So let's pause there for a second, because that is a phenomenal story. Ross, tell us about you. How did you get into coaching?
Mine really fell off the back of a rugby career that never quite got going. Luckily, my parents pushed me into doing a university degree in sports coaching
Okay.
as a sort of fallback. And then it was
A
actually
fullback.
yeah,
Oh.
there's a rugby pun. But it was actually the strength and conditioning coach of the last club I was at. He then sort of took me under his wing and said, "You've done this degree alongside, you've done the qualification, all that sort of thing. Come and do," because he had his own S&C business, strength and conditioning.
And conditioning for anyone who's listening.
And I basically did an internship with him for a year. And he was based at Tottenham College at the time, teaching a couple of kids there. One of them went on to be quite an impressive sort of world and European champion at karate. And then the other one had I think he was at Bath Academy at the time. So we were working with youngsters that were sort of the next big thing in sport. Amazing. Or potential next big thing. And then roughly around the same sort of time, people keep asking me this question. I don't know if it's because I've had so many concussions playing rugby or whatnot, but I can't actually remember how I came by Pinnacle Performance. But I knew Claire, who's Dan's wife. I think I knew her before I knew Dan.
Does Dan know?
Above board. And then it was at the old gym, wasn't it? Same arena, different unit, that I came down and basically, I think I actually did a bit of work experience, or I was a Saturday boy. Can't remember. Again, I was light relief for those two that wanted to get away and have a weekend with their families. So I wasn't lying when I said I was the light relief. And then it sort of just grew from there.
Okay.
Yeah, just went from there. Then we had a franchise gym, didn't we? Which sort of put in the back of my head, which we might talk about on another day. But yeah, and then it just sort of blossomed and grew like most things do, step by step to where we are today.
That's super cool. But it's not always been in this building, has it? So this gym is phenomenal. This is so well set up and it's really cool. And you walk in, you think, wow, this is a seriously well set up organization. But it's not where it started. So tell us where Pinnacle started.
Rewinding slightly, I met Dan in the gym I was working at, and I used to look at this like, stocky chap just cutting around the gym, knowing what he was doing. You can always tell when someone has an aura about themselves. They're just confident.
Yeah, and they look natural.
And he's still like that now, isn't he?
Yeah, this is true.
And I just saw this guy and I thought, yeah, he knows what he's doing. And I just approached him and said, look, would you fancy doing a bit of work together? And at the time, I moved on from the car, got a van, I was logoed up, and it looked pretty cool, actually. I was super proud of myself. I pretty much veered into Campbell.
Okay.
So that was my geographical reason. There was no need to go too far left and right at the south. And it was pretty much a mission to try and find our own place. And myself and Dan done a pretty good job at working with a few professional sailors.
Okay.
And I met a professional sailor's wife, really lovely lady. I won't mention names.
Yeah.
But
if you're watching, you know who you are.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely, absolutely cracking. And I met her and their next door neighbour, and they both really high up in sailing. And we took the jump. We found a unit on Hamble Point Marina, and got the lease. It was absolutely horrendous trying to get the change of use for the building. If anybody's going to set up a gym, getting that was a sort of make or break really for us.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in February 2014, we moved into our first small gym, about 100 meters in front of us.
Okay.
And that's when our gym life started.
Yeah. Amazing. And have you been, Ross, a part of it since then?
Close to, I think. Maybe.
Yeah, I think we'd been established about a year or so, and it was through friends of friend, and knowing Claire, and Dan, that we got to know each other.
Yeah, because now I'm thinking about it, I knew Claire because she was a member at another gym that I used to train at Eastleigh Way. Again, won't mention names, but that's now how I actually remember coming across Claire. Now you mention it, but yeah, then like Andy said, they were established for about a year or so, and then I went and worked over there. But it was always, because it was quite a smaller unit, it was always, very quickly it was clear that Pinnacle was going to have to grow and expand, because there almost wasn't enough space for. It was almost 4 of us at that point, because Jamie was coming on board as well.
Okay.
Because
Just
Dan,
physically not enough space
yeah,
in the
because
building.
Dan knew Jamie from another gym as well, so he was coming on board. Yeah, like I said, I just did a lot of Saturdays. Kind of, I guess, not learnt the craft, but certainly learnt a lot in those early days. I think what benefited me was that I didn't do my qualifications and then go to a public gym and maybe picked up a few
bad habits,
questionable habits.
Yeah.
Both coaching and as just a person. And
you had rugby to thank you for.
Yeah, hell of a mold that gave me. But yeah, I was moldable, I think, and I had 2 of the best guys to really do that with in Dan and Andy. So yeah, from day one, I loved it. I was competing. The rugby thing had taken a back seat, and I think I was starting to try a bit of strongman or something at that point.
Wow,
and
okay.
I know Dan was keen into his powerlifting at the time as well. So I remember quite often daily it would be him and I training together. So kind of learning, training, playing. Probably the best way that young lads can learn anything, really. So
sure.
that was it from the early days. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I was going to just pipe in there actually, with the sort of move from the small gym to the big gym. I think
I'd leave that up to you, the big dog.
So when did you move into this facility?
2017.
Wow. Okay.
And obviously you set out to do any business that starts up and evolves has a business plan, doesn't it?
I think you'd be surprised as to how many businesses don't.
They just start and then wing it.
Start and wing it.
Well,
yeah.
I wouldn't say we when I say business, I sound like I knew what I was doing, and it was probably part winged, part half decent.
Yeah.
The aim was to have an open gym or just a gym membership, and then have what we do now is a semi-private, mostly semi-private coached or semi-private coaching that we do.
Yeah.
But the most catastrophic thing ever was the open gym element, because of the nature of the gym and where we set it up. And Dan 100% set it up in the right way, because most commercial gyms you go into, the idea is to have all the cardio at the front and the weights at the back. Essentially, what they want you to do is pay a membership and not turn up, or sneak yourself in to do some cardio quickly and get yourself out there.
Right, okay.
Essentially, that's what it's for. They don't want it to be loaded up. So when you go into commercial gyms, that's how they're all set up. And we literally broke that mold.
Yeah.
But it actually had a pretty serious consequence for us. And even to this day, don't have any open gym members really.
Okay.
Because you come into the gym and it's mostly weights that you see. And for some people that aren't too sure, it can feel like they're going into something that's going to make them feel a little bit comfortable.
Well, I agree. And so as a woman in particular, walking into an environment like this, it can be hugely overwhelming, because typically gyms are where guys work out and they're doing these heavy weights and stuff, and actually walking into this gym and you feel quite exposed in a way, but actually once you've walked through the door and you've started to work with your coach, it's nothing like that at all.
Well, I think on that subject as well, I think what we've always prided ourselves in is that, am I right in still thinking that we have more female members than male?
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
amazing.
not many gyms can say that. I think that sort of speaks volumes for the kind of ethos we're sort of
creating and
here.
building. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that the initial model, even Dan and me would probably say which he will be one of these podcasts. We will definitely get him on.
Yeah.
He will probably, he'll get on. He'll come on. Is that there's 3 elements to Pinnacle which I wanted to really pride ourselves on. One was the gym environment. Now it sounds like I'm contradicting myself, but one is mirrors. Like, we hate mirrors.
Yes,
There's
yes.
nothing worse than, let's
Oh,
put it on,
he's on one now.
yeah, nothing worse than actually walking into a gym as a female. Obviously, I'm not a female, but you're with your partner and they're getting eyeballed basically by men.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It's very natural to do that. There's nothing wrong with looking at the opposite sex or looking at someone you find moderately attractive in a mirror. That's absolutely fine. But I think you just need that space for to come into a space where personally for us, we didn't want that to happen.
Yeah, it's deeply
You're
intimidating
here
as
to
well.
do a job as well, really. Whether you're the coach or the person receiving the coaching, you're here to train. It's not really here
No.
to peacock. You know?
Yeah. So no mirrors was one thing you were set on.
Yeah, and the other one is to create community, which I think
Yes.
we've done really well. But we're not perfect. I don't think anybody's perfect, but we have.
Talk to me about that a bit more. So when you say create community,
Essentially, we wanted to try and set up to improve the fitness in a specific area.
Mhm.
Now, interestingly, we've had a couple of pub owners in the local area that have actually members.
Yeah.
Members, really funny, but they're jokingly will come up to me and say, "Do you know you do cost me money?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And it just clicked on me. I was like thinking, yeah, he's got a fair point actually, because he's like, half of our members are in here
Yeah.
training and they're not drinking beer anymore. So actually, I'd probably pride ourselves in saying actually we made handball fitter.
Amazing.
And we have a great community, and that's how that community has evolved.
One of the things that I noticed when I joined is that, yes, there's a sense of community, but it takes something quite dramatic to pull people together. So what was it? 12 months ago, there was a major flood.
Yeah.
And the tides came up.
Pretty biblical.
Yeah, biblical, sorry. The tides came up and the whole of this marina was flooded. And the impact on Pinnacle as a gym was potentially quite catastrophic. But
Yeah.
within less than 12 hours, you had a number of members coming in and helping you and
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah.
rebuilding. And I think if ever there was an example of the community that you've created, no one had to do that, right? No one was paid to do it, but they came because they wanted to help you.
Yeah, I could probably definitely name drop this one because he won't mind, but Mark Gee.
Yeah, big Mark.
Yeah, there was others, obviously David, Mark Gee. There's a few I can name quite a few, but what an incredible human. He literally said, if this place doesn't exist, I don't think I will.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how deep that one goes.
Yeah.
And I think that probably could be said for not as quite as extreme, but it probably could be said for a few people actually, that they need this in their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
We often talk about, when I come in, I'm like, that's my mental, it's my time.
They pay for the top quality banter, really, more than anything else.
Classic intervention
The
there by
training
our
is
Ross.
subpar, but the banter
Yeah,
is
I mean, the
top level.
training.
I think the third one we mentioned as well. So we had the sort of environment and the mirrors, and then we have the community aspect. But for us, I mean, it's not good as a business owner to say this, but it's cost. So we always wanted to pride ourselves on actually making health and fitness affordable for all.
Accessible, yeah.
And accessible for people.
Yeah.
Now, if you go back to the business decision we made about having an open gym and that falling through catastrophically and not having that, and it's grown from strength to strength through doing PT and being coach gym. But that really like punches in the face as well, because essentially we still to this day, that is our ethos, to have a gym membership that actually, and a coach membership that people can come and get coached and feel like it's not breaking the bank. Because personally, in the way the UK is at the moment and the cost of everything, what we don't want to do is them not being able to go to a gym because they can't afford to keep themselves healthy or accountable, or something they love doing as a community member.
Yeah, 100%. So it's making no mirrors, so making the gym feel like a place where you can come and just work out.
Yeah.
Having that sense of community. So you walk through the door and, you've got people to talk to, you've got friends. If your coach isn't around, you can have other coaches help you. And then the third element is what you just said. Ross, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to add on the someone walking through the door, if we don't know your name initially, we quickly know your name. I think I could probably name everyone in here.
Oh, there's a challenge.
I'm not going to lift
Ross
it off
is-
now.
The next
'cause we've only
podcast will
got-
be a
we've only
series of
got-
Ross naming all the members.
I won't, from a list. But other gyms, I've worked at other gyms. We've all worked at public gyms and whatnot. They're just a number in there.
Yeah.
People are just a number. Like Andy said, the gym owners, whether they're chains or whatnot, they'd rather you didn't turn up than wear out their equipment. They'd rather just paid your membership and never turned up. Whereas here, we're actively encouraging people to come in. We want to learn your name. We want to know what makes you tick and get the best out of you.
Yeah.
I think what I love the most about the gym is, and again, I can name drop a name because Jeanette, who is still a member, was the first person I ever coached in my career.
Really?
And she still trains today.
Yeah.
She's incredible. Yeah, she's incredible. Herself and David come in. I think David actually bought Jeanette some personal training sessions for her. I think it was her 5th year. 14 years later, she's still in training. She's incredible. Yeah, you would never think she's at that age.
Yeah.
And that's just one of many examples. I think we all have, don't we?
Vicky Lincoln, another big one, sort of, springs to mind. Just in here day one, and then been in there every day since.
Yeah. If we were to get her on the couch, it'd be fascinating to hear what keeps her coming back.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I can understand that.
The banter.
Obviously the
Like I said.
banter.
You build relationships, don't you? I think if you're a good person trying to achieve something or have an objective for that, then you're cool.
100%. So you were saying earlier, like learning an environment with Dan, you were having a bit of fun, you were doing your thing and actually learning and growing together. The same applies when you're training. I know that from my own personal experience. Like coming in, having fun. I've made friends here. And
How long have you been in now? You part of the
3
furniture yet?
years.
Or oh my god, yeah, that's part of the furniture. Isn't it?
Yeah, 3 years I've been coming here, and I don't think I've missed many weeks unless I've been out the country. And that's not because I set my alarm and go, oh, I want to get out of bed and go to gym. It's because I'm like, cool, go and see my mates, have a bit of chat, do a bit of exercise.
Yeah, I'd go with that. That's how I feel from the other side of the fence, from the working side of the fence. It never really feels like work as such.
No, because it's fun and it's an environment, and you've one of your objectives was to create that, and that's exactly what you've done.
Yeah. Well done.
Well done, Andy.
Job done.
Thank you, but nothing happens on your own, does it?
Obviously not.
Yeah, you can have the vision,
My
can't
trainer's
you?
Harry, and he's the best. You guys just happen to be here.
Yeah, but you
That's
trained Harry.
brilliant. That's brilliant.
That's true. So that's the story of Pinnacle. That's the story of how we got to. We've dug into a few topics about why things are the way they are and what we could do in the future. But for this first episode, I wanted to kind of get to the nub of why Pinnacle exists and what makes it unique. And we've got a whole heap of topics planned for future episodes, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think, Ross, your contribution has been stellar today.
I knew it would be.
Absolute legend.
And also, is it fair to say, if anyone listening or watching, if you've got any suggestions or is there anything that you'd really love to hear or talk to us about, let me know, or post on the link, and then we'll go from there.
No, brilliant. That was really
Thank you
great.
very much,
Thank you.
guys.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you very
great
much.
to
Thank
hear
you.
the story.
Cheers.
Thank you.